guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to do a bit of an unusual video for my channel. It's really not that running related. This is more of a travel adventure video. Last week my son's school ended their term. They're on trimesters. He got out of school midday on Thursday and had Friday off. My wife and I were both off work Thursday and Friday, so we decided to try to look for a little adventure. My wife looked around and found a bed and breakfast out in a little town of De Leon, Texas, about 2 hours southwest of us. We went down there. It was really nice. It was actually a little cabin on some people's property. It was a very nice stay. And then we hunted around for things we could do in the area. So we just went down on Thursday afternoon, spent the night Thursday night, and then adventured on Friday and then drove home Friday afternoon later. So De Leon, we learned this little town. I think it's between all three. There were three little towns that we visited in De Leon, Cisco, and Dublin. And they all, I think, have populations of between 2,000 and 4,000 people. But it turns out they all kind of have some history to them. De Leon became a big peanut producer starting around 1910, and they started the De Leon Peanut Company. And the company actually grew to be quite large at one time, and they sold a lot of peanuts that went into candy like Butterfinger and Baby Ruth, things like that. The company, De Leon Peanut Company, was eventually bought out by Nabisco. And actually, over the last couple decades, their production of peanuts has gone down quite a bit out of the area. That county that De Leon is in became the largest peanut producing county in the United States for some time. I don't know that it is anymore, but it was at one time. So anyway, that was interesting. We drove then to Dublin, Texas, which is a small, they call it the Irish capital of Texas. It was settled by some Irish settlers. Well, they had the Dr. Pepper company that started out of Waco. This was one of their first bottling companies. It started in Dublin in 1891, I believe. And they continued to bottle Dr. Pepper in Dublin until Dr. Pepper Snapple broke off with the Dublin Bottling Company in 2012. So they bottled for 120 years. And there's a Dr. Pepper museum in Dublin. We didn't actually get to go in that because it wasn't open the hours we were there. They also have a museum on Ben Hogan, the golfer. He was born there and grew up in Dublin until he was like 10 years old. And then his family moved to Fort Worth, Texas. But again, we didn't get to go in there, but Dublin still, even though they are no longer affiliated with Dr. Pepper, they still run the bottling company, and they produce their own that I guess they're selling more as a novelty. But so we bought a few. We bought a Dublin, Texas root beer and a Dublin, Texas craft soda, and we also bought a few others, but I don't remember what all the flavors were. Interesting thing about that Dublin bottling company is they always bottled with pure cane sugar. So even when in the late 70s and 80s, most of the companies went over to using high fructose corn syrup, the Dublin bottling company, when they were producing Dr. Pepper, refused to go over. So they continued to use pure cane sugar. And they did it until they no longer were bottling Dr. Pepper in 2012. Anyway, so it was kind of interesting information. I don't really have any video from the visits to Dublin or De Leon, but our bigger part of the trip, we went to Cisco. And Cisco is famous for, they've got an old zoo, and they have now an old zoo trail where you can walk through the old zoo. Well, on the side of a mountain hillside, very hilly and rocky hillside, they had built a zoo back in the 1920s. And that zoo continued, I think, until the 70s or something like that. I'm not exactly sure when the zoo stopped. but you can now do a trail walk, and you go through the zoo and see the old cages and the building remnants of the zoo. You can also walk over right there nearby. There's the Lake Cisco, and they built this huge dam that was built between 1920 and 1924. And there was also on the back side of that dam, they used to have the largest concrete pool in the United States. Actually, they said in the world. They had a big concrete swimming pool out there, and they also had other entertainment activities there. And this all for a town that I think has 3,800 people now, but it used to, at one time, I think during its boom times in the 20s and 30s, it got up to 15,000 people or so. It was near a rail line, so that's what kind of got it to build up. But a lot of the benches you'll see and things like that, as I understand, and a lot of the trail work was just done by locals that lived there. It wasn't a big company that built all this. Anyway, I have quite a bit of footage from that. We enjoyed our hike. You'll see the video quality is not great. I did not have my GoPro with me, so I actually just filmed on my cell phone, so the quality is not great, but I still thought it was fun and interesting, so I thought I would share the video. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Okay, so here's the entrance to the Old Zoo Nature Trails, where we're going in and seeing the old zoo that has been closed down for several years. It was built in the 20s. Now there's just kind of remnants left in Cisco, Texas. Anyway, kind of a pretty sign they still have. Back past some more of the cages. See, I brought my GoPro, but I forgot my SD card, so I can't record on my GoPro. So if this comes out good enough, I'm just doing it on my cell phone.
An old picture of a bear sitting next to a thing from a 1927 Cisco yearbook.
Okay.
So he's sitting next to some stacked rocks in a cave-looking thing.
That looks like that hole over there.
Yeah, that's what we were wondering.
Definitely could have been stacked rocks there.
That looks like the one that you said something about bear inside.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yes. I don't know what animal was in here, but this apparently was another cage.
Okay. 1920s and 30s. The little town of Cisco had the world's largest man-made swimming pool by the Hillside Zoo. Now the pool lasted through the 80s. The zoo was closed down and fell into disrepair. So it's from the 20s and 30s. Let's see, here's a...
Yeah, so this was built in the 20s and 30s, in the 20s probably, and it's on the hillside. They built this zoo. Okay, so we were walking on another part of the trail, and there was a sign that said rest stop this way. And obviously out of these big rocks, they had a little bit of mortar, and they built a big bench to sit on. And there's a couple more of them. It's this little area with like 3 sets of rock benches. There's another one. And then there's a third one over here. Pretty cool. Apparently a lot of these trails on the zoo trail and the Spider Rock and all that, my wife was doing a little research, and this wasn't a big company that came in and built all this. Probably was for the zoo, but most of the surrounding trails and stuff, they kind of had an amusement area, but it was just local people that came and
volunteered labor and built a lot of this. It's really kind of sad that it's all closed down. Well, I guess the trails are still here, but they used to have a bunch of it was kind of a recreation area. Lots of camping. They would bring the kids and dump them off and do a lot of picnics out here and go to the zoo. Like we saw, there was either a golf course or a driving range over there. I don't remember what all was over here, but pretty interesting little area that's all gone. Okay, they're walking over. There's another little place with a rock container that holds water. But as I continue up the path, there's signs up here. To the left is the zoo where we were. To the right there's Cougar Trail, Balancing Rock, and Cougar Rock. This is quite an interesting place with all these trails up on this big hill. Anyway. Okay, so this is the trail we're following. We got to Cougar Rock. They spotted a cougar on top of it in 1969 and named it Cougar Rock. Now we continue on the trail and we're on our way up to Balancing Rock. I'm not quite sure why it's called Balancing Rock, but here's the sign. And there's my son balancing on one foot just to show that it's the Balancing Rock.
A light. We found a light.
Number 3.
Looks like a bird.
See? I told you, aviaries are up here. I told you this is up
Never
there.
said it.
You said it was highly unlikely that everything.
Some really good markers. Like this tree is marked as tree. And as best we can tell, it's because they're warning you, because as you walk up this path, it's low overhead. So, are we going to go further down the path? Well, this may be ending the zoo. Just getting back on the path. Kind of beat up. We're kind of walking up, but it seems to be straight up the hill. And we're just going to go to the end of it and see if we can find. They said there was also a large natural swimming pool that was built in the 20s that's out here somewhere. And we're just going to go to the end of the trail and see if we can find it. Lots of cactus out here. Lots and lots of cactus. Kind of an interesting place that's gone out of repair. There's something up on that hill. It's a big arch. Could be. This could be the end of the trail too. Yeah, this looks like the end of the trail. I wonder if this is private property or this is a way to go back.
Just goes around the corner.
Okay, just goes back and feeds into the trail we were on. I guess we just walk back.
Walk on this straight over.
Okay, we walked over here. I think this might have been parking for the zoo out here. There are these long posts that I think people could probably pull up against. There's a big area out here, and over here there's a little seating area like they might have been picked up. Not sure. That almost looks like golf ball cleaners.
Yeah, it is. It is a golf ball cleaner.
Okay, so this used to be a golf course. Oh, there's a tee marker.
Where?
Right here, this brick, this thing. That's you put your ball behind the marker when you tee off.
Yeah.
And that's a ball cleaner. Yeah. So this used to be a golf course. As we walked on this old zoo park trail where the zoo is off of it that's closed down, we found this sign for Spider Rock Trail. This looks like a new sign. So there's a newer trail, it looks like, off of this. So we're going to go check it out. Definitely big steps in some of this. There's that Spider Rock. Okay, so from Spider Rock Trail, it's a nice little road to the, I think it's Highway 6 that we came in on. My son up on the rock, I'm assuming this is Spider Rock. It's a big rock. He has quite a view up there. Quite a view from on top of this rock. Okay, we are walking under the dam at Cisco Lake. There are signs as you walk, this doesn't have one, under a lot of these trusses that tell you how much concrete was used, the year it was built. Some of it's been spray painted over so you can't read it anymore. See, this says 50,000 cubic yards of concrete used, so they misspelled the word concrete. Because there's other places that actually spelled it correctly. Over 6,000 carloads of material used.
And yes, and this thing is to put
The slab is 8.5 feet thick at the base and 20-inch thick at the top. Cost of this in 1920 to 24 was $1.5 million. If you built a dam like this now, it would cost a lot more than that. And here, maximum shoreline of the lake. I don't know where, you can't read it. Maximum width of the lake, 2.5 miles. Length of the lake, 8 miles. Maximum height of the dam, 133.5 feet tall. And this one tells you the construction of the dam was done from September 26, 1920, and it was completed sometime in 20. When we hiked down underneath the dam, this was what we went down, is these stairs. And I don't know if you can see it because of the sunlight, but it's very steep and a long set of stairs that we were taking. See the concrete stairs. A few of them are a little out of repair. And here is a walkway. There's a road that goes across the dam, but it is blocked. We're not supposed to get on it. It says no trespassing. But this walkway is allowed on top of the dam. So this dam goes up to 133 feet up in the air.
That's the largest concrete pool. We used to come from all over the states to the largest concrete pool.
And over here in the 1920s, I'm going to get a little bit closer. This area over here was the largest concrete pool, at least in the United States. And they said people used to come from all over to come swim in this pool. You can see it is out of business, but I don't know if you can see, but on the edge of the water there were swings that swung you into the water. There was a platform out in the water that people could swim to and climb up. It's still the remnants of it are there in wood.
It might have lasted until the 80s. I think it lasted quite a while.
And my wife says she thinks the pool was in operation until the 80s.
It was like the last thing to survive here, I think. If I remember correctly.
And on the other side of this dam is Lake Cisco, which is over here. Actually, some nice homes along the lake. This little town of Cisco has quite a history and pretty interesting. So just try to give a little perspective down at kind of ground level, almost down to the level of the lake. I mean, to the pools. And that's the dam we walked across the bridge on. Anyway, big tall dam, 133 feet tall at its tallest.